Title: The Banquet of Hollow Faces. The rain lashed furiously against the windows of the mansion, a gothic and somber building that stood like a specter against the leaden sky. Inside, the fire crackled in the fireplace, casting dancing shadows on the walls covered with portraits of inscrutable faces. It was the first time that Sarah, barely 19 years old, had visited the family home of her husband, Edward. He, a taciturn and enigmatic man, had warned her about the peculiarities of his family, but nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to witness. The family dinner was a scene straight out of a nightmare. All the family members, from the elderly matriarch to the young cousins, wore white porcelain masks, expressionless and cold. Edward had explained that it was a family tradition, a way to honor the ancestors and maintain the purity of the lineage. Sarah, uncomfortable, felt watched by the empty eye sockets of the masks. During dinner, the silence was sepulchral, interrupted only by the clinking of cutlery and the strident, unnatural laughter that escaped from behind the masks. She tried to strike up a conversation, but her questions were met with vague and evasive answers. Edward seemed tense, his gaze fixed on his plate, as if he feared breaking some unwritten rule. After dinner, the matriarch, a woman with a deep and resonant voice, invited her to join them in the main hall. There, under the dim light of the candles, the family began a strange ritual. They held hands in a circle, muttering words in an ancient and unknown language. Sarah felt increasingly disturbed, as if she were trapped in a demented cult. Suddenly, the matriarch turned to her, her eyes shining with an unsettling intensity through the openings of the mask. "Join us, Sarah," she said in a voice that seemed to come from the depths of the earth. "Embrace our tradition, become part of our family." Fear gripped Sarah. She backed away, feeling the walls closing in on her. "What are you talking about?" she asked with a trembling voice. Edward approached her, his gaze pleading. "Please, Sarah," he whispered. "It's just a tradition. Don't be afraid." But Sarah could not ignore the foreboding that gripped her. Something dark and sinister was hidden behind those masks. She decided to investigate. That night, while the family slept, she ventured to explore the mansion. She passed through labyrinthine corridors, rooms filled with dust and cobwebs, and libraries filled with ancient and forbidden books. In one of the rooms, she found a locked chest. With the help of a pin, she managed to open it. Inside, she found a collection of porcelain masks, each with a different face: an old woman, a child, a young man. But the most disturbing thing was that each mask had a small stain of dried blood inside. Horrified, Sarah continued her search. In the basement, she discovered a hidden chamber. Inside, she found old photographs of the family. In each photograph, the family members wore the same porcelain masks they wore now. But there was something different in their eyes. They seemed empty, soulless. In one of the photographs, she saw Edward as a child, wearing the same mask he was wearing that night. But behind him, in the shadow, she glimpsed a dark and hooded figure, holding a bloody knife. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The truth was much more terrible than she had ever imagined. She returned to her room, determined to escape from that cursed house. But when she opened the door, she found Edward. He was also wearing a mask, but this one was different from the others. It was grotesque, deformed, with a macabre smile etched on its surface. "I knew you wouldn't trust us, Sarah," Edward said in a voice that was not his own. "But it doesn't matter. Now you are part of our family. And as such, you must join our banquet." Before she could react, Edward grabbed her and dragged her towards the main hall. There, the family was waiting for her, all wearing their masks. The matriarch smiled, revealing a row of sharp, yellowed teeth. "Welcome, Sarah," she said. "Now you are one of us." They tied her to a chair in the center of the circle. The matriarch approached her, holding a white porcelain mask. "It's time for you to join our tradition," she said. "It's time for you to become one of the Hollow Faces." Sarah screamed, struggling with all her might. But it was useless. The matriarch placed the mask on her face, pressing it tightly. Sarah felt the air running out of her, her sanity abandoning her. She saw blurredly how the family surrounded her, laughing and applauding. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in the nape of her neck. Everything went black. When she awoke, she was sitting at the dining room table, wearing the porcelain mask. She looked around. The family was watching her with a smile. Edward approached her and offered her a glass of red wine. "Cheers, Sarah," he said. "To our new family." Sarah raised the glass and drank. The wine had a metallic, bitter taste. But she didn't care. She no longer felt anything. She was empty, hollow. She was one more of the Hollow Faces. From that night on, Sarah became part of the masked family. She participated in their rituals, attended their banquets, joined in their strident laughter. She no longer remembered her previous life, her name, her identity. She was just a mask, a hollow face in the somber mansion. And every night, when the rain lashed against the windows, she joined the family in the main hall, murmuring the ancient words and waiting for the next victim, for the next face to join their banquet of madness. The cycle would continue, fueled by terror and despair, perpetuating the curse of the hollow faces for all eternity. The mansion, with its secrets and its horrors, would remain standing, a monument to madness and perversion, a reminder that, sometimes, the worst nightmare hides behind the mask of normality. And the laughter, the hollow and soulless laughter, would resonate in its walls until the end of time.